Hey, what's up, y'all? Got another topic for you today. And today I'm going to talk about actually something that is almost always the first question that comes up when folks are applying for jobs. And that is, which strategy should I take? And how do I go about navigating the job market and finding a new software job? I always kind of break this down into various components. And I figured that I'll share the couple different strategies that I like to take personally and as well as, help folks lead them in the right direction. And I think my perspective is a little bit unique because I noticed that none of these topics are unique, right? There's no secret sauce or secret strategy or something different that I'm doing, but I think that there's a lot of blanket statements out there like, hey, you just need to apply on LinkedIn or you do reach out or whatever it may be. And I want to explain some of those things and what that means to me. And I think my perspective will hopefully open your eyes up as to how you should approach some of these topics. Towards the end here, I actually have a couple interesting ones that I found are a little bit of a hack that most people don't think about. And so I hopefully this will help you out a bit as well. All right, so first thing, I'm going to start off with the most basic one, right? Number one, that's cold apply. You've seen some of my videos. I always talk about myself, folks, everybody applying for thousands of jobs when I was looking for a job, as well as sending out folks to out into the market when I'm doing mentorship, that kind of stuff, right? And the first thing that always comes up is, wow, that's a crazy amount. And I actually tend to forget to actually explain some aspects to this and why I personally don't think that it is a lot, even when you hit the amounts of like several thousand, that kind of thing. And that's because the way I like to think about cold applies is it's actually one of my favorite ones because it's actually I take it as it's the first system design algorithm question you face as a software engineer. Cold applying is fundamentally just you trying to overcome the bots, beating the job search algorithm, understanding when people post jobs onto the marketplace and getting your piece of paper seen over other people's pieces of paper. As essentially that's the only thing that defines whether you get through or not, right? And so when I think about cold applies, I think it's a great opportunity, one, to be able to get your repetition out, get your rejections and the fear of rejection out of the way as quickly as possible, along with being able to find companies that you might not necessarily know anything about, but there potentially could be great jobs. They could be a potentially great jobs as well. And also, this is actually kind of a bit of a start of your networking here, and I will go into that a little bit later. But when I think about cold applying, right, I don't mean go in there, tailor your resume to each and every job you apply to, spend 30 minutes on each app, write cover letters. I actually tend to go towards the opposite, just playing the numbers game. I know some people might disagree with this, but in my opinion, I think that the portals are a lot of it is black holes that lead to nothing. So, kind of like the risk and reward of spending a lot of times on one application, especially if you haven't seen thousands of applications yet and you don't know which ones have a higher percentage or not yet, it's kind of not worth too much of your time to spend tons of time on one. So, how I like to think about cold applies is leverage bots where you can, use bots where you can autofill applications, get through them in seconds. Secondary, also use autofills. Autofills is kind of like your mid-layer automations for job applications. And finally, of course, just being able to quickly fill out applications that are you think have a higher chance. For example, if you find one that's posted one day, it's in healthcare or something like that. It has on LinkedIn, it says it has three applications. I think that those are, for example, worthwhile spending, more than 1 minute on them. But in general, I would say that this is where an aspect of like playing the numbers game, spending only a minute on each application, doing 20, 30 a day, aka spending 30 minutes. Once you get good at it, I personally think you should be able to hit about 40, 50 apps a day within 30, 40 minutes, that kind of thing, at really quick rates, and something that you continually check on. Like, for example, if you apply to about 100 jobs, you get no reach back, you gotta clean up your resume a little bit and make it a little bit better. So it's a great chance to A/B test your resume using cold applies as well. Just keep that in mind. And I know it sounds like I talk about it a lot, right? Applying to 2,000 jobs seems like a crazy number, but over the span of time, using it as your A/B tester, applying to these jobs quickly, not worrying too much about, the questions, and just getting that repetition out, being able to see job applications that will potentially have a higher hit rate is this is like, I think, a great opportunity, and kind of what I always teach folks to go after when they take this approach. And also the number one approach. One other aspect to this, right, is like most folks are like, don't do this, doesn't work, tailor your resumes, do reach out, that kind of stuff. Those are effective ways as well, but from what I see, there's other different skills that people don't talk about when it comes to reach out, that kind of stuff, right? And a lot of us, like myself, we're a little bit more introverted, so kind of doing mindless applies is a lot easier than trying to be social and reach out and that kind of stuff, right? Okay, so number two, I'm actually going to jump into reach out now. Reach out is the second method, but when I say reach out, a lot of people think it's like networking. And I think that, of course, it is true, but I actually like to think about this a little bit differently. I don't think that when you do reach out, you don't necessarily have to do the coffee interviews, meet up with folks directly. I think it's important to be able to see it from your person you're reaching out to's perspective as well. There's a lot of folks out there, especially if you have relatability to them, same college, same boot camp, same whatever background, same hobby that you have with them, and they work at a place that you're interested in. It's it's like they have an incentive as well, if they have the capability to be able to refer you, because most of the times they get a referral bonus. So what I actually notice works really well is just not beating around the bush, right? Like just going straight at it and asking like, hey, I have this relationship with you, we have this thing in common. I'm looking for a job. Do you mind referring me or helping me navigate the job postings now and to the future with your current company? I like to do this because it's like one of the big failures is folks think that when you reach out to somebody, it's like a one and done, one referral, and that's it. But I actually think that that's a bad approach, in my opinion, because anybody that is familiar and is honestly chill and is chill with helping you should understand that, one job application applied for you doesn't represent who you are, that kind of stuff. It's totally situational, a lot of luck involved, and the folks that really are down to help you will be able to refer you multiple times. And I think that's the approach that you want to take, right? And at the same time, it's like people will love, a lot of people are happy to answer the questions you may have, but there's a lot of folks out there too that don't have that ego of like, my company is so awesome, I'm so awesome, like you need to wine and dine me to get referrals. And if they do, move on to the next, find somebody else, and just be more direct, because I think a lot of people value their time. Find somebody that values their time just like yours and is down to help you because you have relatability to them. I think plenty of people are a lot nicer than we think, are absolutely open to help, especially the ones that don't work at the ginormous companies like the Fangs and Google, Amazon, whatever it may be, right? Everybody's asking for referrals to those companies. But how many people are asking for referrals to the big healthcare company in the Midwest that also has software jobs, remote, that kind of thing? Or like who's asking a referral to a retail brand for software engineering? I think that when you think of it that way, right? Think about how to play your percentages and who's willing to help. Even for myself, the amount of alum that reach out to me is very slim. Before I started getting more reach out through the YouTube stuff, I barely got any reach out. And so I think I personally understand reach out is very uncommon, and this is a great way to get in. And again, secondary, use reach out as an ongoing thing rather than just one simple referral for one job. Okay, so this is actually a part of reach out as well. Okay, so as you're going about this, I think one of your best resources is actually reach out for jobs that you didn't get an offer to. You go through the process, you didn't get an offer, the recruiter sounds like they still, like you did pretty well. It just wasn't a matchup, or like they said you were a finalist, that kind of thing. Well, don't take this as your final opportunity with that company. A lot of times, these recruiters, that if they care and if they're decent, this is a great way to be able to skip most of the future rounds and just get right to the end. Some of the best reach out and networking partners I have are actually from this exact example. So for myself, I'll use a great example. I actually went through a mid round with a really large company a long time ago, and this person, unfortunately, the job rec moved on without me. They gave me a call, said I didn't make it through. because they found somebody. I remember at the time, I simply just reached back out when I found another position because, of course, large companies' positions are always ongoing, and they were more than happy to let me back through and jump me right to the on-site. So it's very important that get the sense if your recruiter that you're working with, even if you failed that job interview, if you did well or not, right? If you did well and it just wasn't a fit, this is a great chance to just jump through and reach back out to them in the future. At larger companies, jobs will come up very, very frequently. So don't be afraid to ask when those things come up. And that's a great way just to jump the list and jump to the top and be able to get that on site again. And it is very possible for it to work out like that. Okay, so here's a couple ones that I actually think are really effective that most people don't talk about. And that's actually, if you don't want to do any of those, if you don't want to build a connection, if you don't want to do networking, there is, personally, I think there are a couple hacks. And the number one that I see is actually the internet, right? Using the internet is way underestimated. I don't know why. When it comes to job search, we automatically revert back to like all the advice, all the mindset is like reverted back to like 1999, where you have to wear a suit and show up. And it's like, I don't know why it's like that. And maybe because it's the job search itself isn't well analyzed, but there are modern strategies that has kind of skipped through the system. And one of them I like to say is the internet, of course. Folks on Reddit, folks on Blind constantly are posting for referrals. So if you don't know what Blind is, it's a place where if you have a company email, you can go on and communicate anonymously to other folks and along with your existing company, right? But if you don't have work for a company, you can always ask a friend that uses Blind to help you make a post to ask for referrals in various subgroups and that kind of thing. There are even specific referral websites where folks have just spaces where you can specifically look for referrals. So use that to your advantage again, and that's exactly what I'm saying with reach out. This aspect right here shows that folks do leverage referrals as kind of a way to be able to get a quick buck for themselves at the company. And so they use that to your opportunity in the sense that you can get a referral a lot easier than you think. And again, I can't urge this enough, right? Whenever people think of referrals, they always think of big FANG companies, the top of the top, right? But if you're in need of a job, especially if you're entry level, just think about how often folks are asking for referrals to again, like that random company in the Midwest, that kind of thing. Just think about it in that way. Use that to your advantage, and just know that there are places and spots out there that folks are willing to just give you a referral just based off of an internet post, and it is very, very effective. I think every experienced dev has seen this, where they go on Blind, folks are saying like, "Hey, I need a job. Can you give me a referral?" And then in the thread, there's hundreds of people that will reply. So take that, use that to your advantage, right? Okay, to close this out, right? I don't think there's one good strategy to go about the job search. To be honest, it always has to do with who you are. If you're comfortable with reach out, then do more reach out. If you need to get over, if you're afraid of rejection, you get over more rejections. Build up your rejection tolerance. Maybe do some cold apply. If you're more comfortable with doing like mindless work and just clicking a button or watching a bot go through job applications, cold apply is a good strategy for you, right? Or if you went to a good school, or if you went to a big school, using your network, that kind of stuff, and whatever stage you're in, or if you haven't gotten through on a lot of interviews, but you've done a lot of on-sites, right? It might be a good chance to reach back out to the folks that you did the on-sites with. I don't think there's a one size fit all for all this. And when folks tell you there are, I kind of like, I like to think about this as like, it's all dependent on you. But I think what works best is, of course, trial and error, and understanding that it's going to be a combination of things that will make sense for you. And so I hope this helps out a little bit. I hope you got some good information out of this, and at least I could provide you some insight on how I think about the different strategies, right? Of course, I'm not. I like some people will completely disagree with me. I am kind of approaching this through a logical way, a more human aspect, and less of like a professional. You have to do things squared away, A, B, and C. If you do reach out, you gotta put a suit on and go take them out to coffee, that kind of thing, right? I'm like, thinking about some of these things through a human aspect. And I just hope this helps out a little bit, and I hope you got some good takeaway on this. Let me know what you think, and of course, if you have any of the experience, folks, if you have any great experience on this, drop them in there. I think a lot of people, especially in today's day and age, need the help on being creative and thinking of alternative strategies. So drop some in there if you got advice, and if not, I'll talk to y'all in the next one later.